The adult entertainment industry can be a great experience, but there are a few things you need to know first.
When you make the decision to have sex on camera, it will last forever.
The pictures, video, and other content of you having sex will end up on the internet, DVD, television, and/or print.
It will affect future jobs, careers, and relationships.
There is a great likelihood that everyone you know will see these images, or at least find out.
You cannot expect your legal name to remain a secret, and a stage name will not fool people who recognize you. It's still you.
Stardom is not guaranteed. Neither is steady work.
Performing in porn is a freelance job. You may work most days out of the week or hardly at all.
Even if you have a very successful career as a performer, it will end at some point.
You need to set goals, make a plan, and keep your future in mind.
So you haven't run away yet. Let's talk about how you can start working in the adult entertainment industry.
There are a few different ways to become an adult performer.
Find your favorite porn site or studio.
Most of them have a model application and or email address on their website.
Understand that most adult producers will request nude photos.
Trust your instincts if you feel uncomfortable with an interaction.
Remember that sex is the job, not the audition.
Another way to enter the industry is to contact an agency.
Latata.org has a list of licensed and bonded agents who represent the top talent in the industry.
Most agencies will ask you to sign a contract. Remember that you have the ability to negotiate and change the terms of your contract.
Get a second opinion, ideally from a lawyer, before signing anything.
Agents will charge a percentage of your income and may charge extra for services like transportation and housing. Know what you're paying for and how much you're paying for it before you agree. Remember that your agent works for you.
You do not have to take a certain job or perform a certain act because your agent wants you to.
Another way to enter the industry is to produce your own content.
You can do this through your own website, blog, third-party site that sells clips of independently produced content, and on live webcam.
Adult entertainment is a legitimate industry.
You will usually be paid by a check via a company or a producer. Or you'll receive a check via mail from a payroll company. It'll take like a few weeks, but you'll still get it.
Sometimes your taxes are taken out of your check already. Sometimes they're not. Either way, all wages are reported to the IRS.
It's highly advised that you get an accountant and pay your taxes.
Because, you're an independent contractor. Sometimes it can be kind of difficult. You need to do this correctly because the IRS is no joke.
You may want to think about getting incorporated as a business.
Open a savings account or find other ways to put away money.
As a performer, your body is your income. If any unforeseeable things happen, like you get sick, injured, or simply need a break, you need your savings to fall back on. Try to have at least 3 months of living expenses saved just in case one of these things happens.
For some people, performing in the adult industry isn't a full-time job. You may want to also pursue an education or develop skills that may be useful when you're finished performing in front of the camera.
Talk to your agent and other performers to get an understanding of the current industry rates.
Sex scene rates vary from company to company and are often based on how established you are in the industry.
However, being brand new is also valuable.
Before going to work, make sure you know what sex acts you're performing and how much you are going to be paid.
Different sex acts have different rates.
Remember that you are the one deciding what amounts and acts you are comfortable with.
Make sure you are comfortable with the rate you are getting paid. If you think it's too low, it's probably too low.
If you arrive on set and are asked to do something you didn't agree to, you have the right to call your agent.
If you don't have an agent, you have the right to negotiate for yourself.
You always have the right to say no, and you do not have to defend or explain your choice.
I do not want to is a perfectly good reason for saying no to something.
Since the job you'll be doing involves sex, we have to talk about the basics of STIs.
Some of it might seem gross, and it will probably get a little boring, but the sex you have no longer affects only you and your partners. It now affects the health of every single performer and the livelihoods of every person working in our industry.
There is a support system in porn. We are a community.
And we care about the people in our community.
We want everyone to be happy and healthy.
Anytime you engage in sexual activity with another person, on or off camera, you put yourself at risk for contracting sexually transmitted diseases.
Some companies require the performers in their scenes be tested for STIs, some require condoms, and some use a combination of both.
We as a community follow a protocol of frequent testing for sexually transmittable infections and require that our scene partners follow the same protocol. Any test from an approved testing location will have the performer's ID number on it.
The testing center uses the ID to make sure the performer is who they say they are, and it is your job to make sure that the test and ID both belong to the performer you are about to work with.
Do not be afraid to ask to see their ID. Your safety is your job.
No one can regulate what performers do off camera.
We cannot stress enough the importance of safer sex in your personal life.
Keep a list of all of your sexual partners and the date you last had contact with them.
If you test positive for an STI, you should contact all your sexual partners inside and outside the industry to help stop the potential spread of STIs, which is why you write their names down when it happens.
HPV is a virus that can cause genital warts or cancer.
According to the U.S. Center for Disease Control, nearly every sexually active person will have at least one kind of HPV in their lives. And 16% of sexually active adults have genital herpes.
HPV and herpes are viruses that can be spread during sex when your skin comes into contact with someone else's skin. And oral herpes, or cold sores, can be spread from mouths to genitals.
Yeast, bacterial vaginosis, trichomoniasis, syphilis, gonorrhea, also known as the clap and the drip, and chlamydia are types of bacteria, fungi, and parasites that can infect your mouth, anus, penis, and or vagina.
Just because something is commonly thought of as a vagina-only bug doesn't mean it can't live in a mouth, penis, anus, or be transmitted by one. Your butthole counts as genitals too.
Some of these infections can seriously damage the inside of your body if they aren't treated. They can also increase your risk of getting other STIs that can be spread even with proper use of a condom, including during oral sex.
They don't always show symptoms, and when they do, those symptoms may easily be mistaken for something else.
These are some of the reasons that we recommend getting tested frequently.
When first transmitted, syphilis usually causes a small sore, which might not hurt or even be noticed.
Later, in 3/4 of cases, it can cause a rash that can appear anywhere on the body and vary from rough reddish brown patches all the way through to raised gray or white lesions.
In about 1/4 of cases, it can also cause a wart-like growth that is really, really contagious.
Syphilis can be spread through sex or through any physical contact with the very contagious sores and warts.
Sometimes these lesions are not easily noticeable, and even when obvious, can be mistakenly diagnosed as a different condition.
If syphilis is not detected and treated, it can eventually cause brain damage and death.
And is extremely harmful or fatal to babies infected during pregnancy and childbirth. But, death, guys, death!
Acute HIV infection, usually in the first month or so after being infected, can cause symptoms resembling mononucleosis or the flu, sometimes described as the worst flu ever, including fever, swollen lymph glands in the neck, and a sore throat.
It can also cause absolutely no symptoms for years.
According to the CDC, the acute stage of HIV infection is when an infected person is most contagious.
You cannot get HIV from shaking someone's hand or letting them cry on your shoulder.
You cannot get HIV from sitting on the same couch as an infected person.
HIV is spread through body fluids like blood, semen, vaginal fluid, and breast milk.
You can get HIV from having penetrative sex with a person who is infected with it.
You can get HIV from sharing injection needles and syringes with a person who is infected with it or other blood-to-blood contact.
Oral sex with a person who has HIV also carries a risk of transmission.
Male latex condoms do provide a high degree of protection against HIV, but are not 100% effective and have been known to fail even when used properly. Read the box.
Untreated, HIV can advance into AIDS and result in an accelerated and often painful death.
Fortunately, there are many treatment options, and it is possible for people who have it to live as long as they would without the infection.
Unfortunately, these treatments are not always effective for everyone, and some can have pretty nasty side effects.
There is currently no vaccine or cure for HIV.
If you feel like you have the flu, you should not perform in a sex scene.
And you should have the recommended HIV test done before returning to work.
Get to know your own body. If something about your genitals doesn't feel right, especially if they burn, itch, are leaking or dripping, smell or look different than usual, or it hurts when you pee, you need to see a medical professional.
Just like you wouldn't go to an office job with a cough or a sneeze, don't show up to a sex scene when you know something is wrong with you and the tools that you use for the job.
Look at the bodies of the people you are performing in a sex scene with. If something doesn't look or smell right, reconsider continuing the scene.
Don't forget about hepatitis. Hepatitis A can be contracted through oral contact with fecal matter, like during rimming.
Like HIV, hepatitis B and C can be transmitted through blood.
Hepatitis C and HIV can also be transmitted through sexual fluids. Needle punctures, razor burn, or small cuts from shaving, and irritation on your gums from a stiff toothbrush or aggressive brushing are all things that provide tiny open wounds through which it makes it easier for hepatitis and all other blood-borne diseases to enter your body.
Avoid sharing razors and toothbrushes with other people.
Some sexual acts, like fisting and double penetration, are more physically demanding and may result in tearing of the anus or vagina being penetrated.
These tears, which are also open wounds, make it easier for you to contract HIV or hepatitis if you're exposed.
There are vaccines available for hepatitis A and B and for some strains of HPV.
A male performer's job isn't easy. It often requires a great deal of stamina. Some male performers take erectile dysfunction drugs, such as pills or injections, to help them maintain an erection for long periods of time.
Using these performance-enhancing drugs may have serious long-term side effects.
Some performers use numbing agents during anal sex.
Pain is your body's way of telling you something is wrong.
If you can't feel the pain, you are definitely raising your risk of injury.
If you're thinking about using any of these, or steroids or hormones, be aware of their long-term risks and speak to a doctor first.
More detailed and current information about sexually transmittable infections should be available from your local healthcare provider or local clinic.
Educate yourself about the risks you are taking.
Be on time.
You wouldn't show up late to an office job, so don't show up late to set.
Use of drugs or alcohol raises your risk of injury. It's also unprofessional and may result in you being replaced by the director or producer.
Come to work showered and appropriately groomed.
Be considerate of your scene partner. Many people have allergies to perfumes, colognes, and cigarettes.
Mint, scum, and mouthwash are a safer way to freshen your breath before a scene.
Even though most producers bring supplies for performers, don't assume they will.
Bring your own towel, lube of choice, oil, condoms for toys or sex scene, makeup remover, robes, slippers, lunch, and something to occupy you on set.
Let someone you trust, other than your agent, know your set location, who you're working for, and when you're supposed to be done.
Before your scene, talk to your scene partner about your limits and preferences, and ask them about theirs.
This encourages consent and often makes for a better scene.
You don't have to explain why you don't like something.
Just make your partner aware of your rules in a respectful manner.
This allows for better chemistry and more enjoyable scenes.
As performers, we have something called a no list.
Each performer can put another on their personal no list for any reason.
You don't need to explain to anyone why they're on it or why you will not work with them.
If at any point you feel uncomfortable with any scene, you can call a stop to it. As a performer, you may be interested in engaging in a variety of extreme sexual acts,
such as bondage, fetish, and rough sex.
Communication is especially important in these scenarios.
Don't feel pressured to do anything on camera.
If you have the opportunity to try and act safely in your personal life, it is recommended that you do so.
Just because you do something on camera once doesn't mean you have to do it again.
The great thing about being in the adult industry is that you can fulfill many fantasies that you have.
Think about your choice of name. Try to have a unique name so it's easier for people to find you.
Consider trademarking your stage name and register all your domains and social networking accounts.
What you say on social media could affect your work and your brand, so be aware of this.
There are plenty of other revenue streams available for adult performers.
Some men and women perform in live webcam shows as a full-time job and make a very good living.
This is also called camming.
Many produce their own content for personal websites, clip sites, specialty sites which focus on self-produced or amateur content.
You can participate in live performances such as feature dancing or burlesque,
and public appearances at conventions, conferences, and stores.
Many performers get the opportunity to learn production and post-production skills, such as photography and editing.
Behind the scenes work can be a wonderful retirement option.
Now that you know what you're getting into, welcome to the adult entertainment industry.
We'll see you on set.